I'd like to call this regular council meeting to order. Before I proceed, I want to acknowledge that the land upon which we are located is the traditional territory of the Adirondack, the Haudenosaunee, and the Anishinaabe people. We are the beneficiaries of ancient agreements, such as the dish with one spoon, between the Anishinaabe and the Haudenosaunee, who agreed to share the abundance of the land through peace, friendship, and mutual respect. The two-row wampum, by which the Haudenosaunee welcomed the settlers and agreed to share the land in mutual respect. And the Treaty of Niagara, considered a fundamental document by First Nations in all future relations and treaties with the British. We recognize that we have a responsibility to be stewards of the land in cooperation and collaboration with the Indigenous peoples, not only for one generation, but for all generations to come. We understand that we have an obligation to learn the lessons of our history, educate ourselves about the experiences of the Indigenous people, and seek opportunities to heal the wounds that will result in reconciliation with our Indigenous sisters and brothers. Many First Nations, Métis, and Inuit people live and work in Fort Erie. We stand with all Indigenous people, past and present, in promoting the wise stewardship of the lands on which we live. We have the good fortune to live in a land of such abundance, diversity, and beauty. Let us be vigilant in protecting Turtle Island. That takes us then to the invocation, and would you all please rise?
We meet to serve our community and endeavor to be worthy custodians of all that has been entrusted to us. Let us be concerned only for what will promote good government. May we bring to our council chambers minds that think and hearts that feel, so that in our deliberations we may display imagination, wisdom, and courage, and the will to do our work for the good of all. Thank you.
And Mr. Clerk, the roll call, please.
Your Worship, Councillor Lewis is absent this evening and sends his regrets. All other members of council are present.
Thank you. So there is one addendum this evening. That's bylaw 134 for 2024, which is a part lot control bylaw, removal of part lot control relative to Bradford Avenue. And that was added on Friday, December the 13th. There had been some other alterations, but they've all been sorted out. The announcements are relatively brief. First has to do with Canada being designated by Canada Helps as the third most generous municipality in Canada per capita. And that's based on the number of individuals in the community who make donations to any of the Canada Helps charities for which they provide the internet platform for fundraising. Second has to do with a donation by the Point Dubanow Lighthouse Society, and that was the donation by them of a Fresnel lens which came from Toronto. Apparently Netflix film constructed a new Fresnel lens, 6 panels, 72 prisms at a cost of about $80,000 for one of their programs called Slumberland. That Fresnel lens was somewhat cannibalized with the removal of some parts, but PALPS member Brian Smith, who's a retired tool and die maker, picked up the lens as it was in Toronto, and over the last couple of months spent time repairing and working on the lens to put it back into working order. It's about a 9-foot high item, and it has now been donated by PALPS to the town of Fort Erie, and is now permanently located in the Point Dubanow Lighthouse for all who visit to enjoy. The other item that I wanted to mention had to do with our staff. 5 of our staff completed the Next Gen Municipal Leadership Certification from Goodman School of Business at Brock University. It's a leadership program delivered by experienced and progressive municipal leaders, and it provides the tools and understanding to perform in the evolving public sector. It expands our employees' skill and knowledge in the areas of problem solving, decision making, and planning and organization. We had 5 participants: Nadine Reichelt, who is the Deputy Chief Building Official; Christopher Smith, the Deputy Fire Chief; Rosanna Forenza, our Senior Law Clerk; Ashley Carter, our Deputy Clerk; and Mark Yamarino, Manager of Development Approvals. Aside from that, Ashley also received the Next Gen Award of Excellence, which recognizes alumni who have made significant contributions to their communities. And the awards are a symbol of resilient leadership and are allocated through peer nominations. I'm very proud of this group and the Town of Fort Erie leadership team who encourages and promotes the growth and development of our employees. And so I want to congratulate each and every one of them and the town leadership team who has provided the foundation for them to succeed. And then finally, this is the last council meeting of 2024. Hard to believe. I remember when we went from 1963 to 1964, and I was confused with the numbers then. And now, here we are, 2024. I want to thank council and the senior staff for all of their diligent work over the past year. And I want to wish all of the residents of the town of Fort Erie a Merry Christmas and a safe, happy, and healthy New Year. That then takes us to declarations of pecuniary interest. Are there any this evening? If there are none, we have some upcoming public meetings with respect to the budget. We have a meeting on Wednesday, January the 29th, 2025, where we will deal with the Fort Erie Public Library budget, our town assessment analysis, and the general levy operating budget. And if necessary, we'll have a meeting on February the 5th. The bylaws for our financial matters will be dealt with on February the 24th, 2025. That'll be the general levy budget and the general capital budget. Those meetings are all held here in the town council chambers and start at 6 o'clock on those dates. That takes us to the regional councilor report. Good evening, Councillor Encina.
Good evening, Mayor Redekop, councillors, staff. I'm going to try and keep this under 10 minutes so I won't get cut off. The budget season is finally completed at the region, and I'm sure council is aware that the final levy amount has been set at 9.6%, along with the other rates with the water, wastewater, and Niagara Transit. Efforts to reduce this number fell short, and the levy rate was set by the majority of council. There are several projects slated for the town of Fort Erie. I will bring council the projects and the projected time frame for them. The 2025 rate for hauled sewage has been set. This has an effect on some of the residents here. The blended rate for high concentration and low concentration is now $71 per 1,000 gallons. The rate will gradually rise to $89 per 1,000 by 2028, at which time it will be total cost recovery by the region. Residents at the old Gilmore Lodge will be transferring over to their new facility on December 18th. I'd like to thank publicly Commissioner Jugli and Henry Koning from Social Services at the region for granting my request to have an open house to showcase the facility at the community, to our community. Over 2,000 residents toured the facility, and we're all very impressed with the long-term care home. The facility is now being mirrored by several other municipalities in Ontario because of the integration of technology and the design reflecting the safety and comfort of the residents. The Niagara Region Senior Services Committee programs are set to resume at the new Gilmore Lodge in the community room on January 6, 2025. The programs include the outreach services, the exercise programs, the South Niagara Health and Wellness, which supports older adults, independence, the adult day program, and a respite program called the Gatekeeper. That one is a referral service to connect at-risk older adults to the services and programs. And if anybody needs any more information about these programs, they can go to the Niagara Region, or I have a phone number. It's 905-984-2621 if anybody wants to get a hold of them. And finally, on behalf of my family, I'd like to wish you and all your families a very Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays, and I look forward to seeing everybody in 2025.
Thank you very much, Councillor Encina. Any questions of the regional councillor? Councillor McDermott.
Just one question. Regional Councillor, maybe you can tell us, did you support that budget?
Through you, Mayor Redekop. No, the short answer. I believe I was a bit outspoken at some, but I was held in check by our budget chair.
Only when it was appropriate.
Thank you. And no, it was a long evening, and it went back and forth, but finally came to some resolution in the end. Yes.
In fact, there were several long evenings with respect to the budget. Anything further, Councillor McDermott?
Nothing.
Okay. If there are no other questions, then that takes us to presentations and delegations, of which there are none. There are no public meetings this evening. We have a consent agenda. Are there any items that anyone wishes removed from the consent agenda? Councillor Noyes.
Yes, under board and committee minutes, 11.3.1.
All of the minutes?
The Museum and Cultural Heritage Advisory Committee
Yeah,
minutes.
so there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sets of minutes. All of the minutes?
There's 2 for sure.
Okay, well, we'll take the whole item out.
Yeah.
Anyone else? Okay, then Councillor Noyes, you have the resolution to approve the consent agenda, except for item 11.3.1. Could you please proceed with that?
I know. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Flagg that the council approves a consent agenda as recommended, except for 11.3.1.
Okay, that resolution is on the floor. Those minutes are on the floor. Are there any questions or comments? Councillor Noyes.
And again, I appreciate the work that the volunteers do for this, but I guess I have a few questions in regards to the some of the minutes and some of the content of the minutes. I guess my first question is 694, which would be in the,
Okay, so we're not dealing with that right now. You've accepted 11.3.1. So we're dealing with all of the items other than that. There are no other questions, and I'll call the question. All those in favor of the recommendations of the minutes? Opposed? That is carried. Okay, so Councillor Noyes, if you'd like to put on item 11.3.1.
yes, I would. And I guess,
So we're going to move that council approves 11.3.1 as recommended, and you're going to be seconded by Councillor Flagg.
Yes, Your Worship.
Okay, so that's on the floor then, Councillor
for
Noyes.
discussion, yes. Okay, so there's 2 particular reports, one dated 2411.04. I'm going to just try to grab that one. I think that's the one that has,
What's the date again?
I'm trying to, okay, the date. There's 2, there's the 24, the 12, okay, there's the 12/11.
Okay, December 11th.
So that's the first one, and that brings up Edgemere Road, and which is 694 Edgemere Road. And I'm just wondering, did council already approve that designation?
No.
Okay, so we haven't approved that one. Okay, so that's good, because I'm wondering about all the content of this. If the council hasn't approved it, why is it already, they've already hired a lawyer, the owners have already hired a lawyer. And they're ready, and they've made a number of comments about the ADR report having mistakes and inconsistencies in it. And that's not the only one that had some concerns about the, the different reports provided by the AD, I think it's the ADR, right? And I'm just wondering, should we not have a legal opinion in regards to the concerns that the owner has raised, like before it comes back to council? The owner's lawyer has pointed out several areas of concern that we should have some information then prior to it coming to council for approval, so we kind of know. So some of those concerns are addressed?
So the process is that there's a letter sent to the property owner, and at that point, the property owner indicated concern about it. Then there's follow-up, and at some point, the owner hired a lawyer and a heritage planner. And the minutes would indicate that there had been discussions between the two heritage planners, and the committee was presented with information and decided not to proceed with the designation. So it's all part of the process. Ms. Dewari, if there's further that you'd like to add, please do so.
Your worship, you have covered it, and there's nothing further to add.
Okay, well, I'm reading the minutes here, and it's under this.
Okay, so these are the minutes of December the 11th.
Yeah, I'm reading 694 Edgemere Road, and I'm reading the last paragraph there, the Museum and Cultural Heritage Advisory Committee. This is after all the concerns are brought forward.
What page are you on?
I'm on page 7.
Okay, so,
It says the Museum and Cultural Heritage Advisory Committee continue to recommend the designation of 694 Edgemere Road for dairy.
so that's not December the 11th. December 11th, page 7, has the part of a paragraph, and then the meeting is adjourned.
Okay, it's hard when you're trying to pull up all these different,
Well, that's what we have
Connections.
paper and pen for.
okay, anyway, then whichever number that one is. So, is that the 11.04 then? That has the Edgemere Road on it?
Ms. Dilwari, do you know which of these minutes offhand dealt with the Edgemere Road property?
It's the 04 one then.
November 4th.
Okay, November the 4th.
Okay. And I do apologize for having, there's 6 different attachments, not attachments, but 6 different things, and I'm trying to remember which one said what. But anyway, so that one does talk about Edgemere Road, and it does talk about that the committee, regardless of the concerns raised by the owner, should proceed. So I'm just wondering, should we get some of his concerns be addressed by a legal counsel or something? I don't want to be going further down this road and spending more money.
Ms. Dilwari, can you assist us where we are on status of that particular property?
Your worship, through you to the councillor, we haven't brought that report to council yet. We are still, that issue is still being addressed at the committee level, and we are trying to resolve the issue, and when we bring the report back to council, we would have the complete information. But at this time, we are just trying to we are just trying to resolve the issues and address the concerns of the property owner. No decision has been made on that property yet.
Okay, well, thank you. I'm hoping that comes back to us. Then I'm going to go to Burns Place, which I know has been approved. I think that's in the 12.11. That's that one. Around. This computer is not behaving today, probably because of the user. Okay. That's the 11. Okay, it's the 2412.11. That's the one that does bring up
Yeah, Burns Place is on that.
Burns Place. And why am I not pulling that one up when I'm hitting that? Okay, and this is where my concern, see Edgemere Road shows up on that one? Why is this not doing what it's supposed to be doing? You have to be patient with, it's not going off the other one. For some reason, it keeps jumping back to the other report. But anyway, on that page, it keeps jumping back to November 4th. I don't know why it's doing that. And not seeming to be able to get off on November 4th. But anyway, so I don't know what to tell you, but my concern is that in that report, I know we've already approved Burns Place, and there's a lot of information that came up in the minutes. I, as a councillor, was not aware that the owner had brought up some concerns and had brought up, from what I could understand, there was a meeting of the minds. When I had talked to Anamika earlier that day, when it came to council, that I thought there was a meeting of the minds in regards to a compromise that was reached, and then when it came to council, I found out after the fact that there wasn't a meeting of the minds, that the owner was not in favor of the designation, and when reading the minutes, it seems that the owner had a number of concerns that he presented to the committee, and I'm assuming that the committee, I guess this is where I need staff's input, did the owner and the staff have a discussion on a win-win or a compromise that was, the staff kind of recommended, and then the committee turned it down?
No,
Or
so,
chose against it?
so just to refresh your memory, the developer acquired the property and started cutting down large trees on the property. The residents were up in arms. We looked at it. We designated the property. It had been on the list for designation for a decade before. We designated the property. The developer has since come forward with a request for a demolition permit because he's got a proposal that was outlined to the committee during the December meeting. And he's asking for a demolition permit. That's so far not been agreed to by council, but Ms. Dilwari, maybe you could jump in and bring us up to date from there.
Yes, Your Worship. So we received an application that the owner wanted to demolish a garage and the rear portion of that existing dwelling, which is a designated property. We took a report to, we had a legal opinion upon it. We took a report to Heritage Committee, and the Heritage permit was, they were not supportive of issuing a demolition permit. And that's the update on that application. I just wanted to remind council that we have a current litigation on that property. If council requests more information, because of the circumstances, it may be better to discuss it in a closed session.
Anything further, Councillor Noyes?
Well, then we need to discuss it in closed session. Maybe
All right,
at
then
some-
you move that we go into closed session, and we'll go into
I
closed
move
session.
that we go into closed session to
Okay,
discuss it.
seconder? Well, if we're going to talk about items that should be dealt with in closed session, we should go into closed session. You don't have a seconder, so I guess okay, Councillor Christensen, you're seconding the motion? Okay, all those in favor of going into closed session? Opposed? So, you ask your questions and we'll determine whether or not they can be responded to.
Okay, again, and I do apologize, I cannot get that report on my screen. I cannot get
Mr.
off.
Patton, you're down there. Maybe you could assist Councillor Noyes so that she can get to the report she's interested in. And in the meantime, we'll go to Councillor Flagg. You've got some questions on the same property?
Not on the identical property, Your Worship. I have a couple of amendments, or at least an amendment for the motions that have been made.
The resolutions brought forward by the committee?
Correct.
Yeah, please proceed.
The second resolution that the Museum and Cultural Heritage Advisory Committee recommend, the quorum shall be simple majority of active membership. I find active membership a bit concerning in that I think it could be subjective to individuals who are active on the committee and not members that should be voting. And I would like to move that the wording active membership be changed to members serving.
So serving member, so majority of serving members.
Serving members.
Okay. Is there a seconder for that? Councillor Christensen? And that would eliminate any concerns about whether you're active or not active.
That to me would just, I'm confident that it is well within the spirit of what they're trying to achieve and removes any kind of ambiguity. Yeah.
Ambiguity.
Thank you. That's where I was looking for. Appreciate that.
Does anyone else like to speak to that, or can we call the vote? All those in favor? Okay, so that is carried. Councillor Flagg, you had a second item?
I'm just wondering with respect to the ability to amend their terms of reference at any time. Would those terms of reference still be coming back to council for approval? Or would they be looking for those to be enacted immediately?
So I've had an opportunity to chat with the clerk about this, and both he and I aren't clear on exactly what this resolution means, and I think it would be appropriate if that item were deferred to the next regular council meeting, which is in January, and that would allow the clerk to clarify with the committee what they mean, because you're absolutely correct. Any changes to the terms of reference would be subject to approval by council. So would you like to move that we defer this to January the 27th?
27th, absolutely.
And a seconder for that? Councillor Christensen? That's a motion to defer, and so there's no debate other than as to timing. If none, all those in favor? That is carried. Anything further, Councillor Flagg?
No, Your Worship, thank you.
Okay, and so that's January 27th, 2025. Councillor Noyes, are you able to resurrect the minutes for December the 11th?
And it wasn't me, just to let you guys, it was the computer, just letting you guys know that. I do have it printed out now, so my concern is that, and again, I recall conversations that I had with staff members, that there was a meeting of the minds in regards to that he was okay with the house being designated as long as the property, as long as there was, like, he could sever the house from the property, and that he was in favor of that, and there was no problem with that. And when I went into the meeting, the council meeting, I actually talked to the director of planning that morning, and I said, there's a meeting of the minds, he's in favor, and the answer was, yes, he is. I said, fine, no problem. And that there was a meeting of the minds in regards to the property. I didn't know any about this gutting the thing and all this, because that didn't show up in any of our reports that I could recall. But so now I'm reading the minutes of the Heritage Committee, and there's a number of concerns expressed in here. Number one, about the report itself done by the assessment report, and then there's concerns brought in about that. And so now, I don't know if we have enough information one way or the other in regards to that, but now he's taking this one step further, and we don't know whether some of his concerns are valid or not valid. I don't know, but I know that there had to have been a meeting of the minds for me to be told by staff that there was a meeting of the minds in regards to the designation. I see Councillor Dubanow shaking his head no. I know I've had conversations about this property the morning of, and I was told that the owner was in favor of the designation.
So I'm going to go to Ms. Dilwari. The minutes of November the 27th have much more information and give a little bit of background on what has been going on. And so there's an effort by the current owner to construct 33, I think, townhouse dwelling units, which would have a significant impact on the property. And there have been discussions between his consultants and the town staff with respect to that proposal. The day that this was dealt with by council and we designated the property, there had been an offer by the owner that he'd go along with the designation if he could do all the things that he wanted to do, which essentially would have made the designation of little value. However, Ms. Dilwari, can you bring us up to date on where we are with respect to this property? Because I understand there's an appeal about the designation.
That's correct, Your Worship. So when the council had designated this property, the owner went ahead and appealed this designating bylaw. Since then, we have received a development application as well, which is about an official plan and a zoning bylaw, which is also being appealed because staff had deemed the application incomplete based on in our opinion, the heritage issue should be dealt with first, and then we can look into a development application. The applicant has gone ahead and appealed that application as well. So right now, both the development application and the heritage designation are before the board.
And so there's not going to be much more discussion on this in open session.
Okay, I won't discuss this particular one, but this is a second example where important information regarding whatever property is being designated takes place, and it should take place at the committee level. We're not informed of that. We were not informed in regards to the Burns place. We were not informed, well, maybe we would have been now with the Edgemere if it ever came, when it came forward, the 394, but we were not informed of those, of particular Burns place, and I thought we had already designated in 694, we're going down that road because they're already recommending that when these things come forward and there's these discussions and the owner has specific concerns that's discussed at the committee level, that the council be informed of these discussions and of these concerns. Now, some of these reports are dated, like we got September 5th's report in December. So we don't have the luxury of knowing, of reading the committee report. So, and I understand there was an issue with staffing and everything else, and I can appreciate that. But if there's important information, or there's an information from the owner regarding his property, which we are going to designate, we should know that, not just rely on the ADR report. So that's one of...
It's ARA.
AR?
For starter, and we don't designate any property without receiving a report from staff. That report provides considerable background, and the contents of the report are subject to being questioned by members of council. That includes you.
And I'm saying we didn't get all the information. That's my point.
That's your view. Any other, Councillor Noyes, anything further with respect to these minutes?
Yes, on Airline Street.
Go ahead.
Is that, I think that's in the same one? If I'm not mistaken. Trying to find which one refers to the Airline Street.
Yeah, November the
Fourth one?
4th.
Okay, hang on. Let's hope I can get back to November 4th. It worked. I'm concerned about some of the, I guess, the feeling where I think this is going. And I know it hasn't come before us yet. But in the committee report, it talks about that the owner, if he wants to designate, if he donates the train station, that it's going to be moved, it's at the owner's expense. And I would question why the owner would be on the hook for paying for this.
Yeah, can you
building.
point that out in that report? Because I don't,
It's on page 5, on page 5, the second paragraph, the fourth line from the bottom. The committee discussed the importance of selecting a site that allows for optimal visibility and determined that the owner would need to arrange this at their own cost. And when I did talk to Kimberly today, Ms. Smith today, she said, yes, the moving of the building or whatever would be at the owner's expense. So I'm not quite clear on that's the direction we should be going through. The other thing is that in the report, it also talks about that, and then talking to the residents there, like the owners, they don't want this property designated. They don't want any of it designated, and I think they've been pretty...
Your Worship, can I raise a point of order on this? These are committee minutes and recommendations, or, minutes of the committee. Council will, if it is in staff's discretion, will be bringing a report forward with all of this information, including whether costs are associated or anything of that nature. And I think it would be more appropriate for council to debate and have discussion about this matter when the report is before council, rather than having minutes here when we don't have committee members available to actually answer questions related to their thought process at the time. I wasn't in attendance of this meeting. I can't answer any of those questions. I would be looking for the report as a councillor, and I think that's a more appropriate time to discuss these issues, Your Worship.
well, I agree with you in essence, Councillor Dubanow, but I don't mind providing some latitude. The difficulty that I have is that some of the conclusions that you're reaching, Councillor Noyes, aren't necessarily fair, and they can't be tested with members of the committee because they're not here. And so, this is a committee, and the committee is an advisory committee, and they make recommendations to us, which we may or may not accept. which we may alter. And we've received 3 recommendations tonight, resolutions from the committee, one of which we've amended, one of which we're going to defer for clarification. It's the same with respect to a designation. We make the final decision as to whether A, it will be designated, B, whether it won't be designated, C, whether there are terms and conditions other than what the committee might be recommending. So I'll give you a little bit more latitude, but I think you need to bear that in mind.
And I do appreciate that. But the minutes, we get the minutes, and we're supposed to approve the minutes tonight. Okay, well,
We're receiving them for information.
yeah,
Are we not,
and so,
Clerk? We're receiving them for information.
okay, so we're receiving them for information, and if some of the information I need more clarity on, I can ask. And the other thing is, I have the owners asking me questions, and I have gotten answers from staff, so I have to address the owners' concerns. And when I read this and they ask me a question, I'm going to say, okay, this is what the recommendation, well, this is what it says in the minutes of the meeting about costs and things like that, and about basically other issues I would bring up, but I'll wait until the report comes, that they're concerned about. They're asking me these questions, and I want to be able to give them answers. And when I read what I read in the minutes of these committee minutes, I do have some concerns that they're going in a direction that, number one, we may not be informed of. We were not, as far as I'm concerned, we were not informed.
So I'm going
of
to
the
stop you right
response.
there, because much of what you've been saying this evening so far impugns the character of the staff in particular. What the committee members say, it's pretty clear, it's outlined, but you're suggesting that staff is not being forthright, and I don't think that's fair, and I don't think it's appropriate.
Well, it's not my intent, but I
That's how it's coming
do,
across.
well, I'm sorry if it's coming across that way, that's not my intent. And again, I do want all the information provided to council in regards to all these owners that, on all their concerns. Now, I did get all the information from the director in regards to all the emails that went back and forth. I do appreciate that, but it did take me 3 weeks to get it, and several requests. So, having said that,
So, Councillor Noyes, I don't hardly ever refer to the rules of procedure, but the rules of procedure say that each council member can speak for 5 minutes and can speak a second time after everyone who wants to ask questions can ask questions. You're well over 5 minutes. I'm going to let you continue if you've got other properties, but I'm going to stick with the rules tonight.
okay. And that's fine. I'll let it go, but I'm sure that now that when the minutes do come, or the recommendation does come, all this information will be included.
It'll be what it will be, and you will be entitled to ask questions if there's additional information you feel should be provided.
Okay, fair enough.
Anything further on this, Councillor Noyes? Any other questions with respect to item 11.3.1? If not, all those in favor of receiving? Sorry.
We've got amendments.
Yes. So as amended.
As amended and deferred.
As amended. Well, the one's already been deferred, so it's 11.3.1 as amended. All those in favor? That is carried. That then takes us to so we're into no reports, new business, and Councillor Dubanow, you have the first item under new business.
I do, Your Worship. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Noyes that council accepts the resignation of Eric Connolly and Elizabeth, I apologize, I can't, her last name, Suzaki. Thank you so much, Your Worship. From the Museum and Cultural Heritage Advisory Committee, and further, that council directs staff to proceed with filling the vacancy in accordance with the procedural bylaw.
Any questions or comments? All those in favor? Unopposed? That is carried. That takes us to the next resolution with respect to the Mayor's Youth Advisory Committee, and that's Councillor Flagg.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Noyes that council accepts the resignation of Grace Gismondi from the Mayor's Youth Advisory Committee, and further that council directs staff to proceed with filling the vacancy in accordance with the procedural bylaw.
Any questions or comments? All those in favor? None opposed? That is carried. Councillor Noyes, you have the next resolution regarding the Accessibility Advisory Committee.
Yes, moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Flagg that the council accepts the resignation of Ashley Greaves from the Accessibility Advisory Committee, and further that the council directs staff to proceed with filling the vacancy in accordance with the procedural bylaw.
Any questions or comments? All those in favor? Unopposed, that is carried. We also then have a memorandum, but Councillor Lewis brought that forward, so I'm wondering if it wouldn't be appropriate for us to put that over to the January the 27th committee meeting. Councillor Dubanow, move-in seconder, Councillor Christensen. So other than as to time, no debate. All those in favor of deferring this to January the 27th, 25? Opposed? Carried. Any other new business or inquiries? Councillor Dubanow.
Yeah, thank you, Your Worship. Just a few items I wanted to bring up briefly this evening. I just wanted to raise an issue that had been brought to my attention by the Museum and Cultural Heritage Advisory Committee during our last meeting on the 11th. We were out in the foyer of Town Hall all speaking together, and we saw the heritage display with some items in there which were, we were happy to see, but a few of the members pointed out that perhaps the location isn't ideal. They thought, maybe it was, maybe a little too far off to the side. And one of the things we're trying to do moving into 2025 is really promote our heritage. We're even going to be engaging with economic development and tourism services and communications to get a strategy out to promote this in the community. And they thought that there may be a better location for it. I'm just raising it now. I have an email from the chair who outlined some thoughts about, maybe some rearrangements and kind of some accessibility concerns. But I just wanted to raise that now. We're very happy to see that there. We're very happy that we're moving in this direction and promoting our cultural heritage in the community. It's just maybe they're hoping that we can maybe get it closer to the CSU desk so that if we have people queuing up there and looking, that they can be standing in line while also enjoying whatever is in that display rather than it being closer to the elevator. I'll flip that over to staff just so that they can see the concerns and maybe we can come up with that.
See, the CAO is very interested to receive that.
Yeah, for sure. I only just received it and I haven't had a chance to forward it yet, Your Worship, but I did want to raise that, Ed, because we had a really good discussion about it. The second point I wanted to raise is, and I'm sure it's the proverbial, snowfall and winter control issues. I've had a number of I want to say issues raised with me so far this year, far in excess than I've had in previous years. And it's not so much raised related to snow removal, but it has more to do with ice accumulation. And I'm just wondering if maybe staff can give some clarity on how that works, whether we do patrols regularly, whether, we go down various streets and look for icy spots. If they're, I believe it's 18 hours is for a class 5 road. I could be wrong. It could be 24 regarding how soon it needs to be done. But I'm just wondering, what's our process for determining what roads need salting and sanding? And is there a way residents can get in touch with Town Hall to report those issues so we can get patrol out there?
Walsh.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. For council's information, everything is provided in the winter control plan that was passed in late November, or was it early December? So that's a good reference point for everybody you can direct them to. We do have 18-hour daily patrols. Our roads are not patrolled from 5 or 6 p.m. until about 11 p.m. We have a constant midnight shift and weekend shift in operation. When we determine that winter control is required, I'll give the example of the event we had last Thursday morning. It was determined at 5 a.m. that winter control would be required. So if we were to call in everybody immediately, the clock starts ticking. Staff start at 7 a.m. anyways. Honestly, by the time everybody got out of bed, had their shower, got into work, it's probably going to be 6:30. We do have a 4-hour minimum overtime. So for the sake of a half an hour of work versus 4 hours of overtime, we decided just to, in this event, because of the time, to let everybody come in at 7. The Sanders were deployed immediately. They were loaded and gassed and ready to go. So it was get your assignment, get your route, and away we go. The town was hit completely with sand and salt by 9:30. So 2.5 hours after deployment, we were done. Councillor Dubanow spoke of time limitations. Those are the absolute minimum standards that we adhere to for legal purposes. If we don't have anything, Councillor Dubanow gave the 18-hour mark. If we don't have everything cleared by 18 hours, we can be held legally responsible for that. Our level of service is to do things as soon as reasonably possible. The standard that's set out is a worst case scenario. So when we think there's winter control required, notwithstanding the overtime issue I just explained, we go. We call out guys, staff at 3 a.m. We call out contractors all times of the day. So getting back to Councillor Dubanow's questions, there's a constant patrol out there. We take actions ASAP. If Councillor Dubanow was looking for a phone number, call the 871-1600. If it's after hours, it will be directed to our on-call service, which goes to our on-call person.
Councillor Dubanow.
No, and I thank you for that information through you, Your Worship, to Mr. Walsh. And I don't want to take away from everything the staff did. I actually did hear from a resident on the weekend, and I actually did call the after-hours number and spoke with the answering service. And I was actually, myself, having never done that before, I was fairly impressed at how quick they got it to staff, and they actually got a truck out there and looked at a particular area, and they got some salt down. So if that's the process, I've personally seen that it's worked. I've had a lot of requests this year that have not happened previously, and education and information is always good to have. If someone has a concern, that information is very helpful. That you can always call town hall and we can get patrol out there and kind of lay out some information if it's a concern that someone feels is lagging behind. So I appreciate that information. I don't want to make it sound like staff are not doing the work. I know they're doing the work. It's just no one likes snow at the best of times. No one likes ice at the best of times. And I know we're all doing the best we can. So I appreciate that. Thank you very much, Your Worship.
Anyone else? Councillor Noyes.
So on the same subject of ice and things, and I'm just wondering, in regards to I think the ice particularly was an issue when it came to the hilly areas, like Far Avenue, and I know that Main Street West. I wonder if there are particular areas that are kind of like designated, okay, it's not it's not a flat road, there's an incline here, that they'd be given priority as opposed to, do an entire area first or whatever, that those areas that have inclines be, particularly for ice, not so much for snow, be given the priority for, attention.
Mr. Walsh.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. We do have a number of hills throughout town. Councillor Noyes mentioned a few of them. There are quite a few, actually. We have designated salt routes on the hilly areas, so that is a better agent for addressing ice. We try and limit our salt use as little as possible while maintaining levels of service. It is not as good for the environment as sand. But we do have designated salt routes.
Councillor Noyes.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Councillor Christensen.
Thank you, Your Worship. I have two issues that I wanted to raise and potentially ask staff for input. At one of our previous meetings, we spoke about subsidies for low-income residents for a number of our programs. And I'm sorry I didn't catch it when the report came forward, but the upper income level that qualifies people was, I think, $20,000 a year. I'm aware that for seniors, for those who are aware, old age security, Canada pension, and the guaranteed income supplement basically guarantee people a minimum income of roughly $22,000 a year. So effectively, nobody would qualify for our programs if the minimum income is, or the maximum income to qualify is 20,000. So I'd like staff to look into that.
So that'd be Mr. Jansen.
Okay.
And he might even know. Mr. Jansen, do you know if there's, what the financial threshold is for some of those programs?
So you may be referring to the Seniors Utility Relief Fund that we spoke about during the water budget. That information is on the website, and it simply refers to receive a guaranteed income supplement under old age security. So it doesn't explicitly reference an amount or a threshold, but that is the eligibility amongst another few other items, and I can share that link again.
So I wonder if it would be helpful, Councillor Christensen, for you to speak with Mr. Jansen to figure out what he's indicated is our threshold and how that actually impacts the situation on the ground.
Yes, I'll certainly do that.
Okay,
Yep.
you had a second item?
The second item is that I've had a number of people speak to me and it's the park I'm most aware of, but I would need further information. I've had a number of people speak to me about the lack of after dark lighting in the Crystal Ridge Community Park. It's essentially our parks are open from 6 a.m. to 11 p.m. and there are no lights in the park, so it's impossible to use after the fall of darkness or before sunrise. So effectively, we're paying for very expensive and lovely parks that are not necessarily accessible because of lack of light. So I'm wondering what the policy is with respect to that, but also whether there's a possibility of reviewing the parks, what infrastructure we have in the parks to ensure that people, whether it's playing basketball or going to the dog park, have the capacity to be in the parks. And I'm not saying every park, but certainly the large park, a large park such as Crystal Ridge with multiple users. In addition to which, and again, I'm referencing the one I know best, it's a shortcut from Ridge Road to Rebstock coming through the park, and there are no lights. So I just wanted to raise that. One of my residents did say that she had spoken to staff in both planning and in infrastructure, and she asked me to follow up. So I'm just raising it as potentially a question.
Okay, Ms. Dilwaria, that would be in your bailiwick, I presume? Parks? Yeah, I don't know whether there are any lights in any of the parks except the sport parks, but you can maybe respond to that. Councillor Christensen, anything further?
No, thank you, Your Worship.
Okay, anyone else? So I just wanted to kind of follow up on Councillor Dubanow's issue about ice. Councillor Noyes raised it as well. And we have a policy as well with respect to ice on sidewalks, correct, Mr. Walsh?
Yes, Mayor, we do.
And there is a time frame within which, or I think there's a time frame within which ice on sidewalks is supposed to be sanded, or is there?
The minimum maintenance standard, minimum, is within 48 hours.
Right. So just a rhetorical question. I wonder how we reconcile 48 hours with our desire to be an age-friendly community, because people would have difficulty going out and about walking around if there's ice on the sidewalks. As I said, that's rhetorical. I had one other question, and that is, some time ago, and this would be for you as well, Mr. Walsh, some time ago, we were removing waste receptacles, I think, from parks, but then maybe a couple of years ago, or a year ago, there may have been a change to that so that some of the receptacles were left out. Am I correct that we leave some receptacles in the parks, but we remove some?
You are correct.
And and why is it that we remove some?
I'd have to confirm it, but my suspicion is that they're in parks that are not really frequented through the off-season, or the cans are in locations which would preclude an easy pickup. As council knows, we have a reduced staff in winter in comparison to our summer seasonal staff.
Right, I'd appreciate if you'd look into that, because some of the parks are better used than others, and I appreciate the accessible nature for staff to be able to remove garbage. And we do have regular patrols for picking up garbage in these receptacles in the parks and in our business areas?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. If there are no other questions, then at the region, we go into closed session if there are items in the closed session agenda that individuals want to question. If there aren't any, we don't go into closed session, and we simply deal with the resolutions that would ordinarily come out of closed session. So we can go into closed session. We have two items this evening. We have one with respect to an appointment to a board, and we have one approving the minutes of our last closed session meeting. Well, it's just, it might be a little bit more streamlined, but if there's a counselor that wants to go into closed session, we can proceed with Councillor Christensen, who has the, who has the motion to go into closed session? McDermott. Right. So if anyone wants to go into closed session, I'll get Councillor McDermott to move forward. If not, we'll deal with approving the closed session minutes and appointing the individual to the Bridgeburg BIA in the normal course here in open session, as we would do as if we'd gone to closed session. Okay, so thank you. Yeah, okay, so Councillor Christensen, then you have the motion for us that would be dealt with if we arose from closed session. You just leave out the preamble because we haven't gone into closed session.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor McDermott, that council approves closed meeting minutes of November 18th, 2024, and that council appoints Joanne Keenan to the Bridgeburg Station Downtown Business Improvement Area Board of Management for the term ending November 14th, 2026, or until their successor is appointed.
Are there any questions or comments? If not, all those in favor of the resolutions? That is carried. That then takes us to motions, of which there are none. Are there any notices of motion? Councillor Noyes and then Councillor Dubanow.
Yes, there's an $1,100 fee for an appeal to the heritage designation to the OLT. And so my motion will be that if the person, I guess it's the appellant, is successful in their appeal, that the $1,100 be reimbursed to them by the town.
Okay, and when is it that you propose to bring that forward?
Can be the next council meeting,
Which is January the 27th.
it's fine.
Okay. And Councillor Dubanow.
Yes, Your Worship, I'm going to give notice of motion regarding a motion for the January 27th meeting regarding appointing myself as an alternate to the Environmental Advisory Committee and Councillor Lewis as an alternate to the Museum and Cultural Heritage Advisory Committee. And I've already discussed that with him, and I'll be bringing the motion forward in January.
I think that's something that we can sort out with the clerk, but you've made your declaration. I don't know whether that's going to be necessary, but we'll chat with the clerk about that.
Yeah, whatever works
You and
best.
Councillor Lewis.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other notices of motion? If there are none, then are there any, that takes us to consideration of bylaws. Are there any bylaws that anyone wishes removed from the package? Councillor Dubanow.
Yes, I'd like to remove 133, 2024.
Okay, and Councillor Flagg, you have first and second reading for the bylaw package, which will be everything except bylaw 133.
You got it. Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Noyes, that bylaw package containing 123-2024 to accept and declare lands as public highway, Elm Street, 3701 Elm Street, 10003149555, Ontario, Inc., Mark Marabella. 124-2024 to authorize the entry into a development agreement with Adrino and Elisabetta de Sabatino, 150 Lakewood Avenue. 125-2024 to remove part lot control from blocks 174, Plan 59M 1516 Bradford Avenue, Mountain View Homes, Niagara Limited, Erica Morrison. 126-2024 to designate 367 Crescent Road as being of cultural heritage value or interest. 127-2024 to designate 651 Ridge Road North as being of cultural heritage value or interest. 128-2024 to designate an affordable housing community improvement plan project area. 129-2024 to adopt the preliminary capital budget for the town of Fort Erie for the year 2025. 130-2024 to adopt the 2025 water and wastewater budget and to adopt rates and charges for the year 2025. 131-2024 to adopt the 2024 through 2029 multi-year accessibility plan for the town of Fort Erie and to repeal bylaw 157-2019. 132-2024 to establish fees and charges for the town of Fort Erie and to repeal bylaw 40-09 as amended. 134-2024 to remove part lot control from the blocks 175 Plan 59M 516 Bradford Avenue, Mountain View Homes, Niagara Limited, Erica Morrison. 135-2024 to amend traffic bylaw 2000-89 stop sign speed limits and parking. 136-2024 to adopt a policy for the occupancy of municipal property in the town of Fort Erie and to repeal bylaw 120-2015. 137-2024 to amend traffic bylaw number 2000-89 as amended, Part 1, interpretation, and Part 6, load-related restrictions. 138-2024 to amend zoning bylaw 129-90 as amended, 1023 Arthur Street, Fort Erie, 2824116, Ontario, Inc., are given first and second reading.
All those in favor? And opposed, that is carried. Those bylaws are on the floor for any questions or comments, and I would point out that bylaw number 138 is with respect to the holding provision at the property known as 1023 Arthur Street. Okay, if there are no questions, then I'm going to go to, oh, sorry, Councillor Noyes.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to make a comment on 126-2024 and the same comment on 127-2024 in regards to the designation of 367 Crescent Road and 651 Ridge Road North. It's my understanding that both are, and I have talked to staff and I have read the report, are both in favor of this designation and there's no concerns.
That's right. Okay, that takes us then to third and final reading of the amended package. Councillor Noyes. It's everything except bylaw 133. It's resolution number 18.
Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Dubanow that bylaws 123-2024 to 138-2024 inclusive are given third and final reading to be
No.
signed. No?
You need number 18.
So we're taking out 133?
Oh, sorry, let's see. No, it's,
Okay.
that's agenda number 18. So, yeah, 133 comes out.
Okay, so basically I'm going from 122,
Going from 123 to 132.
132, 2024, and then from 134, 2024 to 138, 2024.
And from 134 to 138.
Yes, yeah. Be given third and final reading to be signed by the mayor and the clerk under the corporate seal.
That was seconded by Councillor Dubanow. Any questions or comments? All those in favor? None opposed, that is carried. So Councillor Flagg, that takes us back to bylaw 133.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Noyes. Bylaw 133-2024 to appoint Michael Maynard of ADR Chambers, Inc. as Integrity Commissioner for the Town of Fort Erie and authorize an amending agreement with ADR Chambers, Inc. is given first and second reading.
All those in favor? Opposed? That is carried. That's on the floor. Councillor Dubanow.
Yes, Your Worship. So my understanding is that this is being moved forward because our current Integrity Commissioner is retiring at the end of the year, and I wish him all the best. I think Mr. McDermott has done a fantastic job, and I'm actually really sad to see him go, but we can't work forever, unfortunately, as much as some of us may like to. What I'm wondering is, I know the clerk had provided us with a list of individuals that ADR Chambers has available to serve as Integrity Commissioner. Haven't had a lot of time to look at it or review their work or any of that. And I do also understand that at the end of the year, we're not going to have an Integrity Commissioner, and we have to have someone serve that role until we make a decision on who we want to move forward to. So I'm just wondering if I'm good with this if we do it in an interim fashion, and perhaps we can amend it to be as interim Integrity Commissioner, and then we could figure out procedurally how to do this, but maybe we revisit this on January 27th after we've had an opportunity to review, and then maybe we can make a decision on how we want to move forward then.
Mr. Clerk, any comments with respect to that?
Through you, Your Worship, yeah, that's correct. So as council's aware, Mr. McDermott will no longer be able to serve the community effective December 31st, so we do need to have somebody in place. So if the intention is to revisit this in January, we would still need to have that interim step until we can make the formal decision at the January council meeting. And so I would recommend approving this, and we can move forward with having potentially a closed session item for the January meeting to consider the alternates in closed session.
Is that agreeable, Councillor Dubanow?
Yeah, I'm good. If staff give the assurance on that, I'm good with that.
Yeah. Well, I've had an opportunity to speak with the clerk about that, and so I would suggest that you schedule a closed session for January 27th so we can chat about this. Okay, anything further? And then we're going to go to third and final reading, and that's Councillor Noyes. Yeah, just 133.
Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Dubanow that bylaw number 133, inclusive, are given third and final reading to be signed by the mayor and the clerk under the corporate seal.
Any questions or comments? All those in favor? None opposed, that is carried. That then takes us to the confirmatory bylaw. Councillor Dubanow.
Yes, Your Worship, moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Noyes, that bylaw 139-2024 to confirm the actions of council at its council and budget committee meeting held on November 25th, 2024, council and committee meeting held on December 2nd, 2024, council and budget committee meeting held on December 4th, 2024, and its council meeting held on December 16th, 2024 is given first and second reading.
All those in favor? None opposed, that is carried. Councillor McDermott, you have third and final reading for the confirmatory bylaw.
Thank you, Your Worship. Moved by myself, seconded by Councillor Christensen, that bylaw 139-2024 is given third and final reading to be signed on the mayor and clerk under the corporate seal.
Any questions or comments? All those in favor? None opposed, that is carried. That takes us to scheduling of meetings. Are there any meetings that anyone wishes to announce? Councillor Noyes.
Yes, on the 18th of December at 10 o'clock at the Bridges of Fort Erie Non-for-Profit Housing is meeting.
Any other meetings? Councillor Christensen.
Through you, Your Worship, on December 30th at 5:30 PM at the Crystal Ridge Library, the Ridgeway BIA will hold its AGM. On January the 8th, 2025, the Ridgeway BIA at the same location, same time, will hold its first meeting of 2025. And also on January 8th, 2025, the Senior Citizens Advisory Committee will hold its meeting at Douglas Heights Senior Center at 10 a.m. Thank you.
Thank you. Any others? Then I'm pleased to go to Councillor Dubanow to bring not only this council meeting, but the activities, the formal activities of this council to conclusion for 2024. It's a weighty responsibility, and I wouldn't give it to you if I didn't think you couldn't handle it.
Yes, Your Worship. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Flagg that council adjourns at 7:17 PM to reconvene into a regular meeting of council on January 27th, 2025.
All those in favor? And that is unanimous. Thank you.